Hey everybody, I'm Jack Reeder with Future Pastimes. I'm a designer on Dune-themed games and expansions. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about a power alliance that I call the Devil You Know Alliance. And that is for lore reasons more than anything else. And it's one that exists between Fremen and House Richese. Now this is a tricky alliance because the actual alliance advantages that each of these factions affords to the other are not ideal. They're not great. And let's start by looking at that. So with the Fremen, it's the usual issue of, they can allow you to not be devoured by worms, which is fine, but it's very situational. It's sporadic. It's not something that you're immediately taking advantage of. You may never end up taking advantage of that element. You do get the free revival of 3 forces, but Richese already has 2 free revivals, so they're really only getting 1 extra force out for free, so also not sexy. And then the last part, of course, is that the Fremen's ally does get to participate in the Fremen special victory condition, which is fine, but you've got to go 10 turns and prevent other players not only from winning, but you have to fulfill certain conditions in order for that to hold true. Now, on the other side, you've got 2 alliance advantages from House Richese. One of them is offering to ship forces from off-planet using a no-field. Well, Fremen don't have any forces that are off-planet, so they can't really take advantage of that. The other one is a little bit better, and that is where Richese can give their ally any Richese treachery card that they have in their hand, as long as their ally's hand is not full. So here, the Fremen need to not have a full hand, but the Richese need to have one of those Richese treachery cards. And that is certainly possible, but again, it's a little bit situational. Neither of these are strong economic factions. Richese is like a semi-economic faction. Now, Fremen, for themselves, they only need spice to buy treachery cards. But they've got to get spice. They only start with 3 spice, so they've really got to get spice from dominating spice blows, preferably, and then possibly winning battles, which for the early game Fremen is a tall order. So they've got their work cut out for them. And for these reasons, this is not an obvious alliance, but there are reasons why the Fremen and the House Richese factions can make a good alliance. Now, I mentioned it was for lore reasons, and that is because we know from the novel Dune that the Harkonnens have been the governors of Arrakis for 80 years. Well, before them, it was House Richese. And I think the Fremen, if they had their druthers, would have preferred House Richese to be the fief rulers of Arrakis over House Harkonnen. Now, they certainly didn't go easy on Richese, but they didn't know how good they had it until the Harkonnens came in and took over. And it's only gotten worse and worse and worse the longer the Harkonnens have been in control of Arrakis for the Fremen. So that's why the Devil You Know, they probably should have done everything they could to keep Richese in control and maybe tried to work with them on some kind of a deal similar to what Duke Leto was trying to arrange for the alliance between Atreides and the Fremen. Now, Duke Leto also wanted to recruit the Fremen into an armed alliance, whereas House Richese probably wouldn't have needed to go that far. But just to, be able to harvest the spice, leave the Fremen to their own devices, that probably would have been, while not ideal, much better. So, getting back to the game itself, how do Fremen and Richese complement each other? So part of it is through their ability to ship and get to places on Arrakis cheaply. So the Fremen, of course, they ship for free, but they have a limitation. They can really only get to a little less than half of the planet with a shipping action. Now, they have 2 movement, which covers most of the board when you combine shipping and movement. But unlike the other factions, which they can ship directly into any of the strongholds and then potentially move to another stronghold, the Fremen are not quite as nimble to do that. They can ship directly into Tabr, which is great, but they couldn't move anybody from Tabr into another stronghold unless they had ornithopters, and then they can just get into Carthage from that stronghold. But with where they are on the planet, 2 territories usually can get them somewhere useful. Spice blows and most of the strongholds. So, like, for instance, if they ship directly into, or they already had forces in the Polar Sink, they can get to a couple of strongholds there. There's some other places that if they already have forces there, maybe from a spice blow previously, or just having moved around, they can get to the other strongholds. With Richese, they can use their no fields to ship very cheaply, and in fact, potentially at better rates even than the Spacing Guild. So being able to get around the planet very cheaply is a strength. And so they need to leverage that. They need to use that ability as much as they can. And in the early part of the alliance, if they haven't already gotten into multiple strongholds, what they really need to be doing is going after spice. The Richese faction has the ability to send 5 forces straight to a spice blow for only 2 spice, using the no field token. And then they have a little bit of insurance, knowing that if a worm does come up subsequent to that, they've managed to survive for that game turn, they're not going to lose forces to a worm. Not that that's a real high priority for most factions going in there, but you want to stay on top of your force losses, even though being allied to the Fremen means you're going to get 3 out. Getting that 1 extra for free, all right, that's nice. And that means that Richese, if they have to fight for the spice, they can dial, a little bit higher than they might want to normally, because they've got a better recovery rate than most other factions will have. So that's the thing. They got to get some spice, because that really helps enable the rest of what this alliance can do. And part of it centers around the fact that if the Richese can afford to buy the Richese treachery cards that they're selling, then it's good for them to have it in their hand, because they can give those cards to the Fremen at any time. There's no limitation. So unlike with Chom, where they can trade a card with their ally once per round or game turn, and only at specific times, with Richese, they can give that card at any time. So if you've got a card like Null Entropy box, or the Stoneburner that you can give to your ally at any time, that is a very flexible thing to have in the alliance. It's one of the things that makes Richese an attractive ally, is that flexibility to hand over certain cards. So that's part of it. But yeah, it's gonna take spice to make that happen. And then the other thing is just leaning into what the factions normally are good at. So with the Fremen, it's being able to move around. It's being able to get into battles and not have to worry about spending spice to count at full strength, using those Fedaykin as well to win battles with the numbers, when you're not able to rely on a strong hand of weapons and defenses. Now, they do have the stronger leaders, so if they do have a good defense, then they can usually win battles with that combination of a strong leader, a 5, a 6, or a 7, and dialing very high. Now, Richese leaders they're okay. They're around the same. They're the same strength as the Atreides, but they don't have the Kwisatz Haderach to help boost them. So they're going to want to be able to save their spice for spice styling. If we're talking about advanced, getting what income they can from maybe a black market selling of certain cards, but selling other cards, their Richese treachery cards, normally when they don't necessarily want to buy those cards. So this is in contrast to a lot of the other power alliances in this series. This is an alliance that is gonna struggle. They gotta ramp up a little bit before they can really start to shine. So that's really about it. I mean, a lot of it's just use your normal advantages and you get with your ally to come up with a good strategy depending on the board state and what other factions are in the game. Getting to spice, though, that's going to be true for just about any alliance, other than something like where you've got at a minimum one strong economic or best case two economic. So like a Chom Emperor alliance, they're not going to have to worry about spice. So they're able to use spice as the central part of what makes that alliance strong. With these guys, they gotta go after it, and they gotta fight for it. And part of it is just going to be go to those spice blows, use the strength of the Fremen or the Fremen's little boost to alliance. Shipping in 5 forces for low amount of spice, maybe 1 or 2 with the no field to get into fights over that spice, so that you can start to stockpile it. That's really what's going to be. And so what's good about this alliance is that they are well positioned to be able to stockpile spice when they don't have a reliable income every game turn. So this is the long haul, and I think part of the strategy is going to be going towards that special victory condition. And because the Richese can ship in cheaply, they can save their spice for spice styling to maybe just be a spoiler in some of those battles. The great thing they can use, like that 0 no field token, is for stronghold blocking. So if you're looking to try to go 10 turns, the Richese faction has a few extra tricks up its sleeve to help prevent the other factions from getting to those victory conditions, the normal stronghold victory condition, so that you can hold out and get into specific strongholds in the last game turn 10, to make sure that your Fremen ally can get that victory. So there you have it. That's it for this one. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or other insights that you would like to share about the Devil You Know Alliance and ways that they can find victory. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.